Good afternoon, everyone. It is David Schlotthauer here in the Home Weather Office for July the 6th, 2023. In this video discussion on the tropics, we are actually going to be looking at when it's going to get active and how many named storms am I now predicting with a new release from the Colorado State University upping their forecast with the number of named storms, major hurricanes, and hurricanes. And as it stands now, this could be a very, very busy season indeed. But in the meantime, the tropical Atlantic is pretty quiet for the time being as we are seeing Saharan dust coming off of Africa. But quiet doesn't always mean quiet necessarily. Here's a look at the Atlantic-wide visible satellite imagery provided by Dr. Levi Cowan at tropicaltidbits.com. We have a tropical wave that is located here near the Leeward and Windward Islands, and then we got another tropical wave coming off of Africa, and we have a little bit of a disturbance right up over here just off the coast of Texas. So just because it's quiet, it doesn't mean that there's nothing going on in the Atlantic, if that makes sense. We have a few areas to watch, but these areas have a less than 0% chance of tropical formation in the next 6 to 7 days, as we have this Bermuda high that is in place, bringing Saharan dust coming off of Africa, but sooner or later that dust is going to wane away. So looking at now the National Hurricane Center, because we want to look at the Eastern Pacific Basin also before we get into more technical discussion about how the rest of the season is going to play out and what that means for August, September, and October during the peak of the Atlantic hurricane season. But right now, we have two areas to watch in the Eastern Pacific Basin. One area has an 80% chance, that's a high chance of tropical formation in the next 7 days. And we have also another area that has a 40 to 60% chance, that is over here. That's going to be moving away from Mexico, and these two systems are nothing to worry about for the time being for much of the country of Mexico, including Baja California, as well as even Puerto Vallarta, as well as, say, Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. So these two disturbances moving away from Mexico, which is what we all want to hear about. So in the meantime, also pretty quiet, like I said, in the Atlantic in the next 7 days. There is nothing to worry about other than a few tropical waves that we're watching that could bring in some gusty winds, some rainfall, maybe some enhanced thunderstorm activity, but we're not looking at tropical depressions, tropical storms, or hurricanes or major hurricanes for the time being. But again, get used to seeing this because it's going to turn the corner by late July into early August, which I think we're probably going to have a busy period coming up, and especially by late August into September, I truly am confident that we're going to have a very, very possibly an extremely busy season on our hands, despite the incoming moderate to strong El Nino. Could almost call it an El Wimpo because it really isn't doing much to the atmosphere according to the Southern Oscillation Index. So now let's transition and let's take a look at our sea surface temperatures right now. This is ironically concerning because of how warm it is in the Atlantic. And when I mean by warm, I mean the 26-degree isotherm is pretty far north. We've talked about this in yesterday's video. By the way, thank you all for tuning into that video. But we've got to talk about this more often because we are approaching the peak. We're getting closer and closer and closer to a busy portion of the Atlantic hurricane season. And this 26-degree isotherm is pretty far north, which means we're not seeing as much upwelling off the Iberian Peninsula, nor are we seeing a cold Canary Current coming in out of the north to help replace this warm water, to help upwell it. So we're left with this really warm patch of warmer than normal sea surface temperatures, and it doesn't look a whole lot like it's crazy warm, right? But it is. We are seeing 30, 31 Celsius waters, even 32 Celsius off the coast of Florida, off the coast of Louisiana and Mississippi. And while that doesn't seem like a whole lot, that is mid to upper 80s in Fahrenheit. That is very, very warm, nearly record warm for early July standards. And so Yeah, I mean, and it's only July. The peak time when these waters are the warmest is usually in mid-September. So they're going to warm up a whole lot more before they begin to cool down for the winter season. Now, showing you just how above average these water temperatures are, here's a look at the NOAA Coral Reef Watch sea surface temperature anomaly departures. My freaking goodness. Mark Sedith has talked about this, Eric Webb on Twitter, Jack Sillen, as well as Philip Klocksbong on Twitter. This is making a lot of headlines, all right? And I'm not trying to hype things up here. I'm not trying to do this to get views or to get people scared or anything. This is real scientific data. It is truly concerning when we see water temperatures that are this warm, especially off the coast of Africa, over the Cabo Verde Islands, over the Azores, just really warm, anywhere between 3 and about 2.5 to 3 Celsius above normal. And while that doesn't seem like a whole lot, that makes a big difference, because if we were, say, 3 degrees Celsius below average, okay, for an example, we looked at these sea surface temperatures, the 26-degree isotherm would probably be more like over here, in other words. So you can just see how much further north that actually is, and that really makes a big difference in terms of the atmospheric circulation as it behaves toward the very busy season. And so with these very warm waters, the very warm look to the AMO, the Atlantic Mercadial Oscillation, or in other words, this warm Canary, warm Iberian Peninsula, really just kicking butt here at keeping things really warm. Not only that, the entire Gulf of Mexico now is about 2 to 3 Celsius above normal. There's no cold patches anymore, including right off the coast of Florida, as well as the Bahamas, really running warm, including the Caribbean. And this has really led me to believe that I think we're going to have an extremely busy season than when I first thought just like a couple of months ago. Now, when we take a look at climatology, how does this rank versus previous years? This is based on ACE points. So what does the ACE mean? Well, it's the total amount of accumulated cyclone energy. How much energy is there with these cyclones? The longer, the stronger these cyclones kind of remain, the more ACE points you actually get. All right. So numbers of named storms. So like, let's just say I'm predicting 20 named storms this year. Well, 20 doesn't mean it's going to be a busy season. What really is busy is the ACE score, and that's quality over quantity. Remember, just because I produced, for kind of a little analogy here, just because I produced, say, 10 videos a week doesn't mean I'm going to get more views, right? Quality beats quantity, and that's what we're seeing here. So when we look at this, we're looking for quality and not the quantity, the number of named storms. And so right now, we're at 3 named storms so far for the Atlantic season, and right now, we are seeing this above normal, okay? The average is the black line that you see here. See that? So we are above normal by a little bit, and this is ranking number 7 out of 73 Atlantic hurricane seasons. Yeah, that's a little bit of an alarming signal. Not as active as it was in 2021, not as active as it was in 2012, not as active as it was in 2022 or 1966 at this given period of time. And just remember what those Atlantic hurricane seasons produced. I mean, 1966 had 137 on the ACE score, but look at this. Just because we're in 7th place doesn't mean we're slacking behind normal or we're ahead of normal. Look at 2010. That had a total ACE score of 165. That was a very busy season. So it's a matter of time on how this is going to all play out. For sure enough, we are ahead of 2005, which that season produced over 250 ACE points. One of the, in quality wise, not quantity, could really arguably enough be one of the busiest Atlantic hurricane seasons known to man on the face of Earth. but the number of storms is slightly below that of 2020. I know I'm going on and on and on about the discussion here, but it's pretty important that we look at the ACE score over the number of named storms. So now, current analysis here. I don't show this, I haven't even showed this at all in my previous videos, even from last year or the year before. But this is showing you the velocity. Is there any upward motion or downward motion through the deep layer of the atmosphere? And right now, we are seeing, as of June, I guess this updates once a month. I have to figure this out, but right now, overall, in the last month, the upward motion has been more over the date line, with more sinking motion towards the last half of June, even in mid-June. That's why there was some wind shear and drier air over in portions of the Eastern Pacific, and that's why we didn't have a really busy portion of the Eastern Pacific hurricane season in June. So kind of self-explanatory on that, all right? Now, what is going to be alarming, and I'm going to be pretty aggressive here. I'm going to over-exaggerate here because this is pretty alarming, okay? We are going to be comparing the last, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the last 6 periods of upper ocean heat content. And yeah, we're going all the way back to 2005 on this. And what we're seeing here is how much total ocean heat content there is being stored below the ocean, right? This is July the 7th, 2005. We all remember that. One of the biggest Atlantic hurricane seasons ever recorded, again, based on ACE score, but the second most busiest season based on the number of named storms. Hopefully I didn't confuse you there. So pretty much, a long story short, this is a measure of how much heat content there is. So when we compare to this, let's go to now 2021. Oh, wait, hold on. Am I? Okay, I am. All right, there we go. I think I fixed it. There we go. So when we compare this is where our ocean heat content was in 2005. 2021, right? And some portions were cooler than average, right? Not cooler than average, but the upper ocean heat content was a little bit further to the south, mostly overall. All right, now let's play this through 2022, right? It goes a little bit even further south. In fact, one could even argue last year was not overly that significant as far as how far north upper ocean heat content can get in the Atlantic Basin. All right, because the more further north, it typically means ocean temperatures are warmer. But look at this. The Gulf of Mexico, the Caribbean really gave way to Ian back in late September, early October, right? So we got to look at that, right? Just because we're quiet now and the upper ocean heat content doesn't seem that big of a deal, it really makes a big difference. So we can see here for July 6, 2022, that's where it is. But what really catches my attention, all right, and I swear, okay, and I'm going to use some serious words here, is what compares 2020, okay, let's go to there, okay, yeah, what compares 2020 to now? Get ready for it, folks. I showed this in yesterday's video, and you all were like, this is absolutely ironic. Okay, remember this. 2020 gave us 30-plus named storms, right? Very busy season. Look at this. 2023, my guys, very warm. I mean, if we draw an outline to this, this is really far north, that upper ocean heat content, even a little bit even up here. Okay, that is 40 degrees north in latitude. That is very ironic, very ironically concerning, very far north for this time of the year, and it's only going to grow. Okay, this means the ocean heat content is deep enough to support tropical cyclones, even in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, for crying out loud. So now, let's go back to 2005. I mean, look at that. Look at where it was in 2005. the upper ocean heat content, look how far south that was. Okay, look at now. This is, oops, not that. Look at how far north that is. The furthest north that I could ever imagine. So that's why I am really, really predicting now probably a pretty busy season. Okay, than what we previously thought. Because of how much upper ocean heat content combined with this. Very, very warm, probably record-breaking warm of the AMO. All right, the warm Iberian Canary Current coming off of Africa and the northern Atlantic Basin. So that is pretty concerning when you compare and see how warm it is in 2023 compared to 2020, let alone, and compare that to 2005. So yeah, does this mean we're going to have a super duper busy season? Not necessarily, right? But what this means is there's jet fuel. This is gasoline for hurricanes. We know the energy is there. We know sea surface temperatures are literally record warm already, so that's not a problem. But it's about what goes on above the surface. More moisture could be evaporating into the air, giving way to more potential strong tropical waves coming off of Africa, and then those are the seeds for named storms. So now we're going to compare 2005, and this is the entire world. Let me zoom this in so you all can see a little bit better. So, of course, if you know your bearings, this is the United States right here. You guys can't miss that right there. There is Central America right in here. Here is the Caribbean. Here's the Atlantic main development region. Here is Africa. So what we're looking at here is what did it look like in 2005 that gave us that very busy season, right? One of the busiest seasons out there. Well, look at the ocean temperatures in the main development region. Roughly anywhere between about 1.5 to 2 Celsius above the long-term average, okay? So that, you know, when you compare that, that is not ironically crazy, okay? Especially that we did not really have a warm AMO look coming through, kind of coming off of the Iberian Peninsula, right? We didn't have a La Nina as well, okay? Or not a very strong La Nina or any El Nino, pretty much neutral in 2005. And yet, that gave us a very busy season, right? Are you following me on that? So what I'm telling you all is this is kind of showing you almost relative, maybe slightly above normal in the larger synoptic scale over the Atlantic, near average in the Eastern and Central Pacific, okay? Leading confidence that, you know, that's why that season was busy, right? We didn't have a lot of differential. Now, if we had a super El Nino that year combined with a near average Atlantic, then maybe it would be a whole different story. 2017 of July the 5th. Kind of a neutral pattern out here, but look what we had here that gave us a very busy season. Gave us nearly 20 named storms in 2017. Irma, Maria, you all know those Cat 5 hurricanes, right? That was a very devastating season in itself. Making sure I'm correct on that. Yeah, Irma, Maria in 2017. So we can see just how busy that season was. Very devastating. Cost a lot of lives, a lot of damage, and yet we did not have this real strong coincidental AM or positive AMO look. 2020, what did that season feature? Let's see. A rather weak La Nina, not very strong by any means. A near neutral looking Atlantic Basin as far as the AMO, right? We're not too warm, not too cold, maybe a little bit warmer than normal down here for the main development region, but it's a large scale synoptic that I'm looking at here. And so relatively speaking, 2020 in the Atlantic was overall near average to slightly above average with sea surface temperatures in the large scale sense, with a below average ENSO. Well, that gave us a very busy season. It didn't take a warm AMO look to get a very busy, wild season. and that gave us over 30 named storms. Follow me now? Now let's take a look at what this season looks like right now on July the 5th. Are you all ready for this? Clap your hands for me if you're ready to see this. 2023, here it comes. My goodness. Absolutely cannot compare any other year to a very, very warm Atlantic. I mean, some of these anomalies right in here are 2.63 Celsius above normal, and that is a really big patch of warm water there over the main development region. Very warm in the Gulf of Mexico, very warm in the Western Atlantic Basin. But now questions are being asked probably, why are we going to have such busy season despite El Nino? Well, when we take a look here, look at the Atlantic Basin, just kind of follow how warmer than average it actually is overall, especially the warm AMO look with this El Nino. Okay, follow me on that, okay? I'm going to circle these basins in so you can really understand and see with what I'm talking about here. I want you all to make sure you all are understanding with what I'm saying here, because this is important. Go to 2005, right? Or wait, no, let's compare 2020, for in other words. Okay, the Atlantic Basin wasn't crazy warm, nor was the Eastern Pacific crazy warm. So what I'm trying to tell you here is it's almost like a La Nina pattern, because we have two basins here that are well above average. So at this point, I don't think El Nino really is going to impact the Atlantic very much. I truly am beginning to lean against that I think the Atlantic is so dominating right now. It is so much warmer than it is over the Central and Eastern Pacific that I think we're going to have a really troubling season despite this El Nino. And this is going to be a big reminder and an important one that just because we have El Nino does not always mean we're going to have a Willy Wonka busting or kind of an underperforming Atlantic hurricane season. All right, and speaking of that, we had 3 named storms, let alone in the month of June. Yeah, in June, folks, in June, 3 named storms. And the peak is well ahead of us. So, doesn't mean we're going to have a busy season, but it kind of may guarantee that. So, when we look at where we're at now, we're right about in here, okay? So, follow my pin. Right in there with the black. Actually, we're going to kind of make a line. So we're right in here. And look at where we have to go. We have to go all the way up to the very top here into September the 10th and the 11th, which is climatological, the peak of the Atlantic hurricane season. Peak, that is, before we trend downward. So it's a matter of how busy will it get. And when we look at this, I know this is going to be a long discussion because I want to make sure you all are really understanding with what I'm talking about here, because I am really concerned. Okay, I know this video is 23 minutes long, probably going to be almost a 30-minute video nevertheless. So 2017, remember that? We just showed you what those sea surface temperatures were, right? It wasn't really a crazy warm one. Well, 18 named storms, 2 Cat 5 hurricanes, 1 Cat 4 hurricane. Yeah, only 18 named storms, right? But yet, gave us an ACE score of 224.87. See what I mean? Number of named storms doesn't really count, but the ACE score actually does. Deaths, very, very deadly season. Over 3,300 deaths and almost $300 billion, that is, in damage and destruction. Yeah, from one of the 18 named storms. So it just kind of shows you that. So let's take a look here. 2020, 2011, right? That was a La Nina year. The Atlantic was also slightly below average with sea surface temperatures, but yet 20 named storms, right? So what I'm telling you all, just because we have an El Nino combined with a very warm AMO doesn't mean we're going to have a below average season. I think we're going to have at least in my own prediction, we're probably going to end up having at least more than 18 named storms this year. That's my prediction. We actually have had 4 storms total. So wait, we're up to 4, right? That is not possible. I guess there was one that was unnamed. Quote me on that. So it could be 3, it could be 4, but either way, yeah, it's definitely looking like a busy one. And overall, too, it's been trending that way. So therefore, are you guys ready to see my predictions? Best for last, the grand finale. So there's been some updates. The tropical cyclone risk forecasts, okay, 13 named storms, 6 hurricanes, 2 major hurricanes, pretty much unchanged. Colorado State University now predicts 18 named storms, 9 hurricanes, 4 major hurricanes. The University of Arizona, are you kidding me? 25 named storms, 12 hurricanes. 6 of those could become major hurricanes, folks. That is pretty alarming. Very, just absolutely tremendously concerning. The Weather Channel, 17 named storms, 9 hurricanes, 4 major hurricanes. The UK Met Office is predicting 20 named storms. 11 of those could become hurricanes. That's a very high number, with 5 of those becoming major hurricanes, Cat 3 plus. Okay, NOAA predicts 12 to 17 named storms, 5 to 9 hurricanes, and 1 to 4 major hurricanes. And worst of all, you do not want to see my forecast, folks. It is pretty bullish. Okay, very bullish because of the data that I have collected. Yes, might be hyping this up, but it is worth noting that it's because of what we're seeing in the Atlantic. 14 to 20 named storms, 6 to 10 of those could become hurricanes, and 3 to 5 major hurricanes. And the outline forecast, the David Schlotthauer, that's what DS stands for, control forecast model run, predicts possibly 21 to 27 named storms, 11 to 16 hurricanes, and 5 to 9 major hurricanes. That would be the worst outcome possible for what it's worth. Based on sea surface temperatures, the moisture content, the heat content, this can give us maybe up to 27 named storms, 16 hurricanes, and 9 major hurricanes if it all is perfect, which we do not want to see, right? We don't want to see 9 major hurricanes. That would be pretty much historic if you all ask me. So that's a look at the Atlantic hurricane season 2023 predictions by me. Again, this is newly updated. Well, anyways, folks, that is really going to do it with this video. If this video helped you out a lot at making precautions and predicting for yourselves, please consider subscribing, hitting the like button, and sharing this video with your family and friends on social media. As always, I have you all 100% covered on the Atlantic hurricane season. So if you're watching this from the Caribbean, from Jamaica, from Venezuela, if you're watching this from Cuba, the Bahamas, Florida, even the United States, for crying out loud, even the west coast of Africa there, and even Bermuda, please consider subscribing, folks. It really means a lot because I've got you covered for the Atlantic hurricane season. We already saw some of that with Cindy, with Brett, when we covered that. So share, like, subscribe, and I'll be back with you in the office again tomorrow with what is going on with U.S. weather updates. All right, thank you all for watching.